Our story today is about a hospital that's been closed for many years. Derelict building, broken windows, graffiti on walls. It seems abandoned for years, but the furniture is still inside. Some beds have sheets on them, and you can hear screaming and running, sometimes laughing. Many people have died in the hospital, and the legends say it's haunted. Why was the hospital closed for so long? What were the noises coming from there? Why did people call it haunted? To find out the answers to all these questions, watch the video till the end and subscribe to the channel. It was 11 o'clock at night, and me and my 3 friends were playing Truth or Dare in the park near the spooky hospital. I said it was late and I should go home, but my friends laughed and said, "Why worry? You don't have parents to scold you for being late. It's us who should be careful." But look, we're still having fun. In the park, a wise old man was also watching us and listening carefully to our conversation. Just then, a bottle spins and points at me. My friends dared me to spend the night in the hospital. I agreed, but the old man advised against it, warning us that anyone who went in there before never came back. His voice was really spooky, but we just laughed, thinking maybe he's trying to scare us with stories. But we're not scared, so we decided we'll spend the whole night inside the hospital to prove him wrong and show that everything he said was just made up. As we walked into the old mental hospital, it felt really terrifying. Our flashlights showed us a map hanging on the wall. It was old and torn, with words we didn't understand. Everything was covered in dust and looked really dirty. We tiptoed down the hallway, and our footsteps sounded really loud. We saw old furniture that was broken and messy. The walls were peeling and looked like they hadn't been cleaned in years. Suddenly, we heard a strange noise, like someone moaning far away. It gave us all goosebumps, but we kept going. The map helped us figure out where to go, even though it was hard to read because it was so old. Even though we were scared, we wanted to explore and see what secrets the hospital held. It was like an adventure, even though it was also a little scary. As we ventured deeper into the old mental hospital, our flashlights flickered nervously, casting long shadows on the grimy walls. Suddenly, we stumbled upon a room that sent chills down our spines. The door creaked open with a loud groan, revealing a dimly lit space filled with creepy old dolls staring back at us with lifeless eyes. "Whoa, these dolls are so spooky," my friend Tim said, shining his flashlight on the eerie collection. "I know, right? They look like they could come to life any moment," I replied, trembling slightly. Just then, a sudden gust of wind made the dolls' tattered dresses flutter, sending shivers down our spines. "Let's get out of here," squealed Sarah, clutching onto my arm tightly. We hurried out of the room, but our adventure was far from over. As we continued to explore the maze-like corridors, we stumbled upon a shadowy figure lurking in the darkness. "What's that?" whispered Tim, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know," I stammered, my heart racing in my chest. As the figure drew closer, we realized it was just an old coat hanging on a coat rack, swaying gently in the breeze. "Phew, false alarm," sighed Sarah, visibly relieved. Despite the scares, we couldn't help but feel excited by our spooky adventure. With each new discovery, we grew braver, knowing that we had each other's backs. As we finally made our way out of the haunted hospital, we knew that we had shared an unforgettable experience that would bond us forever. As we approached the exit to leave the old mental hospital, a feeling of relief washed over us. But just as we reached for the door handle, it slammed shut on its own, refusing to budge no matter how hard we pushed and pulled. Panic surged through us as we realized we were trapped inside. "What's happening? Why won't the door open?" I cried out, my voice shaking badly with fear. "I don't know. It's like something's holding it shut." Tim was shivering, his hands shaking as he tried to force the door open. Suddenly, we heard strange whispers echoing through the hallway. It sounded like voices from another world, whispering secrets we couldn't understand. I think we're not alone in here," Sarah said, her eyes wide with terror. Before we could react, a deafening crash echoed from behind us. We turned to see our friend Jake had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only his flashlight rolling on the ground. "Jake, where are you?" I called out, my voice trembling with fear. No response came, only the eerie silence of the abandoned hospital. "He was just here a second ago. Where could he have gone?" gasped Tim, his face pale with fright. "We have to find him. We can't leave him alone here," I insisted, my heart pounding in my chest. With trembling hands and racing hearts, we ventured deeper into the haunted hospital, determined to find our missing friend and uncover the secrets of the strange occurrences that surrounded us. As we bravely ventured deeper into the dark corridors of the abandoned hospital, our hearts pounded with fear. We were determined to find our missing friend Jake, no matter what. Suddenly, we heard a blood-curdling scream echoing through the hallway, freezing us in our tracks. "What was that?" I whispered with fear. "I don't know, but we have to find out," replied Tim, his voice quivering with uncertainty. Following the sound, we arrived at a room filled with old, dusty machinery. In the dim light, we spotted Jake hanging from a ceiling fan, his body covered in blood and bruises, as if he'd been brutally attacked. "Oh no, Jake!" cried Sarah, tears welling up in her eyes. Rushing to his side, we tried to untangle him from the fan, but it was too late. His lifeless body swung limply from the ceiling. A gruesome sight. "He's gone," I whispered, my voice choked with sorrow. Just then, a cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing our flashlights and plunging us into darkness. A sense of dread washed over us as we realized we were not alone. "We have to get out of here now," exclaimed Tim, his voice filled with urgency. But before we could make a move, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, its eyes gleaming with malice. With a menacing laugh, it lunged at us, sending us scrambling for safety. Terrified and desperate, we fought back with all our strength, knowing that our lives depended on it. Suddenly, as we turned around, we saw someone swiftly pass by us. When we looked back, Tim was gone. We were terrified. We started searching for Tim, fearing he might meet the same fate as Jake. Just as we were about to start, loud laughter echoed around us, so loud that it felt like it was piercing through our ears. When the laughter stopped, a scream followed. I scoured every inch of the hospital, my heart pounding with fear. Then, in a dark corner, I found Tim's lifeless body, lying motionless on the floor. "Tim, wake up, please wake up," I sobbed, but it was too late. My heart sank as I watched Sarah's grief-stricken face. We were supposed to be exploring this place together, but now we were trapped in a nightmare. As we continued our search, dread gnawed at my insides. Sarah's screams pierced the silence, leading us to a grim discovery. Her body lay lifeless, just like Tim's, a haunting sight that shattered our hope. I tried to lift her, but she didn't budge. When I pulled my hand away, it was covered in blood. It seemed like someone had attacked her with great force. Suddenly, something grabbed my ankle and dragged me into a room. The door slammed shut behind me. I was shocked. When I managed to open the door, I found Sarah hanging from a ceiling fan, just like Tim. At that moment, the hospital felt like a prison, and I was its helpless prisoner. Fear clutched at my chest as I realized we were next. But despite the terror gripping me, I knew I had to find a way out before it was too late. As I approached the door, my heart pounded with fear. To my surprise, the door swung open easily, which was strange because it had been stuck shut before. Confusion swirled in my mind as I dashed outside into the park, seeking refuge from the eerie hospital. There, sitting on a bench, was the elderly man we'd encountered earlier. I hurried over to him and asked why he had warned us not to enter the hospital. He looked at me with sorrowful eyes and began to tell a sad tale. Many years ago, an elderly man was abandoned here by their son and daughter-in-law in pursuit of their property, labeling him as insane. For days, he remained very sad. One day, overcome by despair, he took his own life by hanging himself from a ceiling fan. Since that day, any young man or woman who comes here either dies or disappears. That's why this hospital has become desolate. Many people have died here. My son also came here, and since then there's been no trace of him. The elderly man explained that he had tried to warn us because he didn't want anyone else to suffer the same fate. I asked him why the entity didn't harm me or stop me from leaving if it killed everyone else. He replied, "Perhaps it knew that your parents are no longer in this world, so it didn't say anything to you." Tears welled up in my eyes as I listened to the tragic story. The elderly man's words echoed in my mind. I realized the gravity of the situation. We had narrowly escaped a fate similar to the old man's, thanks to his timely warning. Feeling a sense of gratitude and sorrow, I thanked the elderly man for sharing the story with me. As I left the park, I couldn't shake the feeling of sadness that lingered in my heart. Did you enjoy the spooky adventures of our friends in the haunted hospital? Subscribe to our channel for more thrilling stories like this.